Come on, old lady, move it. Ricko shoved the elderly woman in the back, causing her to lose balance and fall clumsily to the floor, trying unsuccessfully to protect herself from the fall with her hands. They listened to the sound of the impact and the muffled groans of the fallen woman. Quit whimpering. Nobody's going to hear you anyway. Did we waste 2 days trailing you for nothing? You should have thought with your head before deciding to live alone on the outskirts of this godforsaken village. Stop blabbering, idiot. We don't have much time. Let's find the money. And what do we have here? Nobody's going to come looking for her. Lucky if the rats don't devour her before the neighbors remember she exists. What do you want from me? I have neither money nor valuables. The woman moaned plaintively, futilely trying to get up. Oh, come off it. Spare me. Greedy old hags like you always have a couple hundred stashed away somewhere. And that's all we need right now. You can't live it up here anyway. Suddenly, both assailants heard a strange rustling coming from behind the wall. It turned out there was a small room they hadn't noticed before. Peering into the semi-darkness, they froze in horror as the barrel of a gun emerged from the shadows, aimed at them. Who would have thought that the lonely old woman would have a protector? Ricko and Carlos weren't robbing small towns and villages for nothing. After escaping from prison, they were wanted by the police. Apparently, not very actively, since they managed to carry out several attacks. This time they decided to visit some villages near the town of clumsily. The population of the town did not exceed 4,000 inhabitants, and in the surrounding villages, there were sometimes only a few dozen. Law and police were long forgotten luxuries in these parts. The inhabitants, mostly elderly and lonely people, lived in isolation, not overly concerned with their neighbors' lives. Old Lady Martinez didn't attract any attention at all. She rarely appeared even in the local store, managing with what she had. Once a month, an old pickup truck stopped near her house, taking her to town. The driver, a simple working man from clumsily, was either an old acquaintance of the old lady's or a distant relative. He considered it his duty to help the woman occasionally with buying groceries, medicine, and other necessities for life. Clumsily was one of the smallest towns in the state of Hidalgo. Its name, in Nahuatl language, literally meant house on the other side of the river. The population consisted mainly of indigenous Mexicans, but there were also mestizos. Thanks to its rich history, clumsily was considered a major center of culture and religion. Beautiful festive processions were held here, in which not only the city's residents participated, but also those from neighboring villages and settlements. The locals particularly loved the Day of the Dead and the Day of Remembrance of the most revered saint in clumsily, San Marcos. Dona Martinez loved festivals. Together with her husband and daughter, she prepared for them in advance, trying to surprise the neighbors with house decorations and fancy costumes. When they were young, life seemed much simpler and happier. Dona Martinez's husband, Raul, used to be a policeman, but after the station closed down, he made ends meet with odd jobs. He even tried to work as a shepherd and a lumberjack. He died in one of these logging accidents, leaving his wife alone with their teenage daughter. Dona Martinez never remarried, remaining faithful to her beloved husband forever. Despite understanding the limited opportunities for a happy and secure life in the dwindling village, she never dared to move away with the majority. She had been living in the village for decades. Once, life there was vibrant. The construction of a major highway that was supposed to pass through the entire state of Hidalgo attracted many youths to the village, where they met, started families, and decided to stay. However, the construction was eventually frozen. Finding other jobs proved to be very difficult, so the residents decided to leave and seek happiness in big cities. Dona Martinez's daughter, Elena, also decided to move with everyone else. Such a decision wasn't easy for her. "Daughter, don't leave. You know I won't cope alone here. I'm getting old," pleaded her mother. "Mom, I won't survive in this town. I can't find a job, and we can't live on welfare. Besides, Miguel needs money." I'll leave, find a job, and send you money, Elena responded. I'm afraid to let you go. Big cities mean big troubles, her mother said worriedly. They found me trouble even in this small one, Elena sadly remarked. Elena was one of the most beautiful girls. The pride of her parents, the envy of her neighbors. Unfortunately, her beauty played a cruel joke on her. One of the construction supervisors noticed her. He started complimenting her, inviting her on dates. At first, the girl, raised in a strict Catholic family, tried to keep their communication decent. But the man was so persistent, promising marriage, that the girl gave in. The result was pregnancy, which enraged the man. You're insane. Why did you do this? Did you want to ruin my life? He shouted. Me? Well, children don't appear out of thin air. And how will I ruin your life? You wanted to marry me, the girl retorted. From the malicious look in the man's eyes, the girl realized it was just an excuse to make her submit and forget about honor and upbringing. Do as you wish, but this bastard shouldn't be born, he hissed, grabbing the girl by the neck so hard her spine almost cracked. But you loved me, the desperate girl tried to appeal to her lover's reason. Idiot! Who would love a village beggar like you? I have a wife in the city. From a wealthy family. The girl barely remembered how she got home. Only one thought spun in her head, to end her life so no one would know her shame. Oh, Father! How lucky you are not to have lived to see this black hour, she tearfully prayed to the heavens. For several days, the girl couldn't bring herself to tell her mother about the trouble she was in. Unfortunately, the father of her child turned out to be even worse than she thought. He spread rumors that Elena earned money by providing special services to his workers. And now she was pregnant. Imagine that. This slut doesn't even know who the father of her child is. She came to me demanding justice and to force one of my boys to marry her, he laughed, spreading his made-up gossip on every corner. Since there had never been any bad rumors about Elena, most people didn't believe the newcomer's tales. What are you inventing? Elena is the daughter of a respected and decent person. Her mother is a true Catholic. They raised their daughter to be modest and decent. However, there were quickly those who were eager to believe the gossip, retelling them and adding details of their own. When these dirty rumors reached Donna Martinez, it seemed to her that the earth had opened up beneath her and the heavens had darkened. The first impulse was to shut the mouths of all those spreading dirty gossip about her daughter, but first it was necessary to find out from her daughter if there was even a shred of truth in them. Daughter, tell me, what vile gossip are the village gossips spreading about you? Demanded the mother sternly. Elena burst into tears and threw herself at her mother's feet, confessing that she had met with a stranger and had even allowed him too much. So not everything in these rumors is untrue. Mom. He swore he loved me, he asked me to marry him. I trusted him. But you should have trusted God. How many times have I told you the man can only see you naked when the pastor marries you in church? Donna Martinez was not angry with her daughter. She was disappointed. Elena was not the first to find herself in such a situation, but the woman thought she had raised her daughter well. Let's do this. You won't go anywhere until the baby is born. No need to let the neighbors wag their tongues, scrutinizing how you carry evidence of your shame. And then we'll find a good family for the baby. But Mom, this is my child, which was conceived in sin. I am an honest woman and I will not allow this, the mother said sternly. Elena knew it was useless to argue with her mother, so she submitted quietly. However, her former lover did not submit to this situation. He was not going to stop at just defaming the girl. He needed the child not to be born. And he made a cruel decision. At his request, a couple of not very honest subordinates were supposed to track down Elena and ensure that she lost the baby. Since the mother did not let the girl out onto the street, it was very difficult to accomplish this. However, one day Elena herself gave them the opportunity to carry out their plan. Mom, can I at least go out for a walk in the evening? I'm dizzy from sitting inside these four walls all the time. You should have thought of that earlier. And now that your belly is growing, sit and don't complain. But nobody will notice me. We live on the outskirts. I'll quietly go out, take a walk in the mountains. No one will see me. I'm trying to restore your good name. I'm telling everyone that you've gone away to study. What's the point of studying if they see you strolling around the village with a belly? But my belly is small. I'll dress in a way that no one will notice it. You'll give birth in 3 months, then you can stroll as much as you like. I need to leave for the city tomorrow to arrange for adoption. It seems we've found a suitable family. If they change their minds, the Holy Marty Shelter accepts such children. Shelter? No. Mom. Please. This is your grandchild. I would be happy for him if he were born in wedlock. Your father and I haven't had children for many years. The Lord blessed us with you when we had almost given up hope. I gave birth to you at 43 and did everything to ensure you grew up in a happy family. So don't tell me what I should do with this child. Understanding that her mother couldn't be persuaded, Elena decided to leave the house at night. This was exactly what the thugs hired by her lover were waiting for, who had been watching Donna Martinez's house. Elena had barely walked 100 meters when she heard hurried footsteps behind her. There was no one around who could have been going into the mountains for any reason, so the girl was genuinely frightened and decided to return to the village. However, she was stopped. Well, doll. Don't feel like listening to what you're told, one of them said, throwing her to the ground. Don't take offense now. He doesn't want trouble. Elena couldn't remember anything more as a hail of kicks rained down on her. Deciding they'd had enough, the men left the bleeding girl on the road and disappeared. Fortunately, a mother's heart told Donna Martinez that something was wrong. She woke up abruptly from her sleep, jumped out of bed, and ran to her daughter's room. The bed was empty, the covers untouched. Her daughter hadn't gone to bed. The woman rushed outside. 2 roads led from their little house on the outskirts, one to the village and one to the mountains. Elena was unlikely to have gone to the village, but breaking her mother's prohibition and heading for the mountains was entirely possible. The woman ran along the road and soon found her battered daughter on the side. Elena. My dear. What's happened? How could this happen? The girl was barely breathing, so her mother quickly returned home and ran to the nearest neighbors. They had an old pickup truck that could take the girl to the city. Without asking unnecessary questions, the neighbor quickly started the engine and went to get the girl. Carefully seating Elena in the back, he raced down the road, squeezing everything he could out of his old car. At the hospital, Elena was quickly taken into surgery. And a few hours later, a tired doctor came out to the mother, who was fervently praying for her daughter's recovery. Donna Martinez, your daughter will live. She'll have to spend some time in the hospital, but she'll recover. She took some serious blows, but she's young, her body will recover. Thank you, doctor. And the child? He's alive too, but very, very weak. He was born 3 months premature. His chances are very slim. If he survives the day, we can make some predictions. But it's almost certain he'll be disabled. Apparently, the attacker hit the girl in the abdomen. The baby suffered. Doctor, thank you. I'll pray for you forever. Donna Martinez was advised to return home and come back in 2 days when it would be clear whether predictions could be made. I can't leave. A neighbor brought me here and left, and I don't have any acquaintances in the city. But you can't stay in the hospital either. This isn't a lodging house. After some thought, Donna Martinez went to the church to pray for her daughter's health and ask for forgiveness for not wanting to acknowledge her grandson. Her anger led to the baby's suffering. The woman reproached herself for wanting to give him away. Now his life hung by a thread, and it was all her fault. 2 days later, she returned to the hospital. By this time, Elena had regained consciousness. However, the good news ended there. The boy she had given birth to survived, but it was clear he would be disabled. How bad is it, doctor? He's unlikely to walk, talk, or lead a normal life. It's highly probable he'll have mental retardation. This is punishment for my grave sin, the woman cried, and I must atone for it. Alone. The daughter was able to return home after 2 weeks. She became withdrawn and silent. Now she herself didn't want to go out. She knew who sent those scoundrels and feared that her former lover would not stop until he killed her. A month later, the doctor allowed them to take the boy. Weak and small, he resembled a kitten recently pulled out of a puddle. He didn't even cry, just whimpered slightly, indicating he was alive. Elena didn't approach the child. She became like a shadow of the Elena she used to be. Donna Martinez tried to persuade her daughter to at least hold her son, but she stubbornly refused. Mom, get rid of it. I don't want to see him. He won't be a human. Just a pathetic parody. I don't want to see him. But he's your son. You wanted to give him away. Let them take him. Or does no one need a disabled person? Then give him to an orphanage, toss him at his father's door. Do as you please, I don't care. I named him Miguel, after your father. Why? Father was a real man. Strong, honest. And this? Will this ever become a man? I'm not forcing you to love him, but you'll have to accept him. I'll raise him myself. God punished me for my callousness and pride. Now Miguelito is my cross. Mom, you're 65 years old. You won't be able to cope with a disabled person. I will raise him as long as I have strength. And then as God wills. The rumor that Elena had given birth to a sick child soon spread throughout the village. Fortunately, by that time, the boy's father had already left, as the road construction project had been put on hold indefinitely. Young families gradually began to leave the village in search of work and a better life. 3 years passed. As the doctors predicted, little Miguel couldn't walk or talk. But he was an amazingly attentive and clever boy. Fortunately, his brain was not damaged. He quickly mastered all the necessary skills. The grandmother spent whole days with him, while Elena only occasionally cast him a look full of hatred. If not for him, my life would have been different. He's to blame for everything. Miguel is an innocent child who suffered because of his mother's foolishness and his father's cruelty, the grandmother would say. I can't live here anymore and scrape by on the pitiful pennies I managed to earn. I've decided to leave for Mexico. Nobody knows me there. I'll start a new life. What about us? What about your son? How will we survive? I'll send you money, and when I can settle down, I'll bring you to me. At that moment, Elena probably believed in what she was saying. But she couldn't keep her promise. She moved to the capital, found a job. Soon she remarried and gave birth to 2 beautiful daughters. She didn't tell her husband about the old mother and the sick son living in the wilderness. At first, she sent money regularly. It was enough for all expenses, and she even managed to save a little. However, after 7 years, the transfers became less frequent until they stopped altogether. For some time, Donna Martinez tried to live on the money she had saved earlier. The neighbor, the owner of the pickup truck who had taken Elena to the hospital that night, sometimes shared vegetables from his garden with the old woman. But the day when complete poverty could be staring her in the face was not far off. She decided to sell everything valuable in the house. She decided to leave only the rifle that belonged to her late husband. Since his death, no one had touched the weapon. It hung on the wall in Elena's room, which now belonged to Miguel. The elderly woman couldn't bear to part with it. Here's the translation. A neighbor drove her to the city, where she sold everything valuable she had managed to accumulate throughout her life. It was here that Ricko and Carlos noticed her as they were scouting the population of the town in search of an easy target. The old woman, who entered the pawnshop with a bundle and left empty-handed, looked like an easy prey. They noticed that a man brought her in an old car. He also picked her up after some time. Following them, the bandits discovered that the old woman lived alone on the outskirts of the village, where hardly any residents remained. Perfect prey, don't you think? Completely agree. I think we shouldn't wait. We should pay the old lady a visit tonight, the thugs chuckled. If only they knew whom they would meet in the old woman's house, they would have thought twice before attacking. When they burst into the house, Miguel was asleep. But he woke up as soon as he heard their voices. Reaching for the gun on the wall, the guy quietly slid off the bed. The robbers heard a rustle and decided to check its source. When they noticed the barrel of the gun, they paused momentarily and hesitated. That was enough for Miguel to shoot almost blindly. A shot rang out, followed by a scream turning into a gurgle. Miguel hit one of the attackers in the neck. The second one decided not to wait for his turn and bolted out of the house. Awakened by the gunshot, a neighbor rushed out of the house and noticed a man running out of the old lady's house. Fortunately, the neighbor managed to stop the criminal and handed him over to the police. After experiencing such a shock, Donna Martinez fell ill and was hospitalized. The teenager was taken in by neighbors who adopted him after the grandmother's death.